What's up, guys? I'm here in Lombok, which is an island next to Bali. And I want to talk to you guys about the hero's journey. It's what Luke went on, it's what Simba went on, it's what Elijah Wood went on. In Lord of the Rings, not any other film that he did. Although he might have done it in another film. And so it is the process of self-realization, really, which I feel like might have some noise around that term for some people. Self-realization, or like maybe that sounds like enlightenment to some people, and maybe that sounds like a turn off to some people for some reason. But ultimately it's like there are some people that are living their life in a way that you would think that they don't answer to anybody. Meaning to say, you would think that they don't falter or stray from who it is that they are. And they're them. And if they are them, if a human is to be a human, if a human is to embody fully what that being or that vessel has the opportunity to merge into with or to be, that's the full version, basically. Full version realization, or in my lensing, it's called full moon, which is different than full reflectivity. And it's an amazing merger of several different things. Like in nature, when the stars align in a certain way, you know, and there's a solar eclipse or a lunar eclipse, or, you know, several planets line up, you know, aka December 21st, 2012. You know, it's this type of aligning that I'm referring to in a hero's journey, that it's different from living a mundane life. It's different from living a life where one feels unfulfilled. I'm sure we've all seen somebody in our lifetime crumpled over on the side of the street, or, you know, picking trash out of a trash can. And, you know, everybody's on their own path and finding their own way, but what does it mean to be fulfilled? What does it mean to be full? What does it mean to be whole? What does it mean to be you? What does it mean to be you? I remember I was super young when people started telling me as a command, be yourself. And it's like, what does that even mean? What does that imply? What is being referred to? It essentially implies that you can be something other than yourself. And what is that? What is that referring to? Because it sounds like it's referring to one has the opportunity to mistake who one is. You can mistake who you are. And what does one's life look like then? And I think that's when I've experienced that. I've experienced trying to be somebody else. My particular lensing on that is, you know, getting overwhelmed with expectations of what is supposed to be done, whether it's in a day, whether it's in an hour, whether it's in a week or a month or a year, or, you know, by a certain time I thought I was gonna do certain things and I didn't do those certain things by that certain time, And so I thought I failed at doing those things. And so I felt unfulfilled in doing those things. And so I felt like a failure, broken, out of sync with my source, out of sync with who I was supposed to be or who I thought I was. And the hero's journey is basically a framework to know that is always happening. It's a framework, it's a lensing to know that's always taking place, whether you like it or not. You're on your hero's journey. And it's not meant to feel masculine or feminine or mythological, although it can be. But I think it's a way of lensing your life. Because some people are living their lives as if it's the only one to live, and they're doing epic things and they're living this, adventure. I remember seeing certain people, the first person that's coming up in my head right now is Kanye West. And I remember at one point seeing him and being like, yo, it's gotta be nuts. I think it was when I saw the Black Album documentary, and he's like in his orange polo and he's like pitching Jay the idea for the movies. And talk about a hero. What does it mean to be a hero? And so let's say currently you're at A and there is a B. And let's say that B is death. A is not necessarily birth, but A is where you're at currently. In yoga, there is the idea that there is a way that things can go that's basically, I'm mindful with this word choice, but it's basically better than another way. It's basically the best way. And now best and better need to be defined by saying it's the best way that it could go. It's the best way that it could happen. Now, take your mind out of your masculine, elementary grading system. It's not about getting an A+, but rather there may be several different ways that are all the best ways. Meaning, a flower can sprout and a flower can blossom, a flower can actualize the best way possible, and yet it could look a million different ways. Because the bee pollinates in a different way, the wind blows in a different way, so one petal's like, or one petal's like, and then in a parallel universe, that petal's like, but it's all the most beautiful. It's all the best. It's all the highest way in which it can actualize, in which it can formulate, in which it can blossom. And so this is the way that is being referred to as the highest way, the best way. When Frodo Baggins got ripped out of his mundane rhythm and pattern of living his life and thrust into this epic adventure, when Simba's life, by this series of events, got ripped to shreds and blown apart, and he lost everything that he knew. His dad dies, his uncle's a fucking nut job. When Luke, same thing happens to Luke, which, interestingly enough, the same thing happened to Anakin. And so Anakin's highest version is obviously a much different story than Luke's. The Last Jedi hasn't come out yet, so I'm still waiting to see what happens to Luke. And so this is where the idea of calibration comes in, because the flower blossoming all the way, or Luke going on his journey, or Frodo doing, and now this points at what is one's life purpose. And if you're on your hero's journey, then you're basically just lining up with your life purpose. What is the life purpose? The flower's purpose is to blossom. Now, the flower has the opportunity to blossom in the most beautiful way. Does that mean more petals than another way? I don't know. Does that mean more colorful than another way? Maybe. But I hope I'm framing this in an appropriate and in a sufficient way, because I'm getting myself out of the idea and out of the way of thinking, out of my old way of thinking, my old patterns of thinking, that of comparative, competitive, masculine, quantitative analysis. The difference between left brain and right brain is quantitative versus qualitative. Feminine is qualitative. Masculine is quantitative. You stop counting and comparing because it needs to be binarily analyzed, and all of a sudden you start looking at the quality and be like, wow, that tree is beautiful, and so is that other tree, and that patch of water is beautiful, but so is that other patch. They're all the best. The difference between a human being is you kind of have this thing called choice and will. Now, fate and destiny, these are ideas that we're just gonna not even touch on right now, because it just feel like they're not really, that's not necessary right now. But I would like to instigate this line of inquiry within you, which is, are you living your life purpose? Are you on track to live a fulfilled life? Mind you, these are super open-ended questions that there's really unlimited variety and variables that can determine what that even means, which only you can determine. And you are a segment of source. You are a slice of the light spectrum. You are a slice of the vibratory space-time continuum as a perceived segment of source. But we're all one consciousness. We are all one mind. And yet we're experiencing each other and ourselves in this construct of separation. Without getting into Course in Miracles and yoga and alchemy and these other means of framing what it is to be one or unified, we're just talking about the hero's journey right now. But all those as references to what it can mean to be calibrated to one's purpose or fulfilled trajectory. Meaning there's a way that you can carry yourself and a way that you can be in life that you don't miss out on anything, because you live your story. You do it. And so when you die, you're like, yeah, I did that. You're not like, dang, I shoulda ... comma. No, ... comma. Let's not leave it up to the next life to deal with it. If you don't believe in reincarnation, then I guess even worse, basically. It depends on how you frame it. I'm removing all rightness in how you frame it. But I am referring to nature. I am referring to the laws of nature. That the flower can blossom in a certain way. That means it needs the light, it means it needs the water, it needs certain things. It needs some certain nutrients, it needs some certain conditions. And that's also another interesting way of looking at it, is that the difference between us and a flower or any plant or any other animal really is that we have this ability to run away or run towards anything. People, places, opportunities, etc. But who are you showing up as when you do so? And another video will be about trauma. Another video will be about the shadow self. Another places we'll talk about the ego and what it means to dissolve that. And these are all techniques or methods or framework to get into one's fullest expression. And so all of this is part of the hero's journey. And so there are maps of what the hero's journey is. Joseph Campbell expanded on it quite thoroughly. But for here and now, we're just going to stay with this lensing of it, which is, whose life are you living, yours or someone else's? Because if you're living someone else's or anybody else's expectations or thought or notion of what you should be doing with your life, you may miss out on your life. You may not live your life. You may think that someone's going to do something or some opportunity or some destiny or some fate moment is going to happen and change your life for you, and then all of a sudden 10 years go by, or maybe just 1 year go by, but that year is super important and a lot of shit happens, and you realize that you've missed out on these opportunities to do things in a different way, or to do anything in a certain way, or to do something at all. And so all of us experiencing life, our own story, we came from somewhere and we're going somewhere. And yet there seems to be this variable of what we can do with this thing called life. And so are you doing it, or are you waiting for somebody else to do it for you? You have a life. What are you going to do with it? Live your story. Free yourself from your story so that you can be your truest identity and live the most epic life that you could possibly live, which may mean so many different things for so many different people. This is what mine looks like and feels like for me right now. Are you waiting on some other hero to come and wake you up on your journey? Or are you gonna be the hero that wakes yourself up to live the journey of your dreams? I feel like that's what the hero's journey is all about. Anyway, food for thought, vibes.